Welcome back to the deep dive. In a world where, well, let's face it, our digital lives are constantly under siege. From personal data to critical infrastructure, how do we actually defend our virtual castles? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the silent, often kind of unsung heroes of cybersecurity. Intrusion detection systems, IDS, intrusion prevention systems, IPS, and of course, firewalls. Our mission is to demystify these powerful tools, really illuminate their distinct yet collaborative roles, and understand how they form, the bedrock of our digital defenses. So let's fortify our knowledge. We're starting our defense tour with the vigilant observer of your digital realm, the intrusion detection system, or IDS. What's its primary function, really, in keeping our systems secure?
Right. Think of an IDS as your network's hyper-aware security guard. Its core purpose is to continuously monitor for anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
That could be a known threat signature, maybe a new suspicious activity pattern, or even just a violation of your organization's internal security policies within an IT environment.
Yeah.
It's basically always watching, from a single application right up to an entire network. And when it spots something suspicious, the IDS doesn't physically stop it. That's key. Instead, it acts like a sophisticated alarm bell, generating detailed alerts. These alerts can notify administrators directly, or more commonly now, feed into a security information and event management system, a SIEM.
The SIEM, right, to help sort through it all.
Exactly. A SIEM helps to filter and prioritize these alarms, distinguishing between genuine threats and what we call false alarms or false positives.
So it's about being incredibly perceptive, learning what normal looks like so it can flag the anomalies, and crucially, it's a passive system. Yeah, it doesn't jump in.
Exactly right. Administrators are absolutely key here. They configure the IDS to accurately recognize legitimate traffic and differentiate it from malicious activities. It's vital to grasp that a standard IDS is primarily a listen-only system. It monitors and alerts, but it cannot automatically take action to prevent a detected exploit from actually taking over a system. That immediate response to the investigation of the fix typically falls to a human analyst reacting based on those alerts.
Okay, that makes sense. To truly grasp how this digital watchdog operates, let's maybe peer under the hood a bit. What are the core components that allow an IDS to see and report what's happening?
Sure. An IDS functions through a few key parts. It starts with its data collectors. These are the sensors or agents. These are deployed at strategic points. Sensors might sniff traffic on your wired or wireless networks, while agents look deep into individual hosts or endpoints.
Right, the eyes and ears.
Pretty much. All that raw information then flows back to a central management server. This is essentially the IDS's brain, responsible for collecting, correlating, and analyzing the data. This analysis gets stored in a database server, acting as its memory, and finally, security teams interact with all this through a console. That's their command center for administration and monitoring.
I see how those pieces fit together now, and I understand IDS comes in different flavors depending on where you actually deploy it. Is that correct?
That's right. IDS are typically classified by their deployment environment. You've got HIDs, host intrusion detection systems. HIDs runs on individual endpoints, like a critical server or maybe even a user's computer. It gives you really deep visibility into that specific machine's internals monitoring processes, system logs, specific host traffic.
So it can catch things happening inside.
Exactly. It's crucial for catching anomalies that might originate from within your organization, or maybe malicious traffic that a network-wide system might miss. Then there's NIDS, the Network Intrusion Detection System. This is placed at strategic points in the network, observing all inbound and outbound traffic for a whole subnet. It's comparing this traffic against known attacks. Now, while it lacks the deep internal endpoint visibility of HIDS, it provides, a broader context for widespread threats across your network.
Yeah.
And beyond these main two, you also have more specialized IDs, like protocol-based BIDs for securing specific web server communications, think HTTPS, or application protocol-based APIs for things like SQL database traffic.
Interesting specialization.
And what's truly insightful here, I think, is the concept of hybrid intrusion detection system. This combines two or more of these approaches, like HEs and NIDs, to give a really comprehensive view. This isn't just about adding more layers for the sake of it. It's a powerful illustration of that cybersecurity principle of defense in depth.
Defense in depth. Makes sense.
Yeah, no single system is foolproof, right? But by intelligently layering different strengths, you create a far more resilient and adaptive defense. They cover each other's blind spots. Prelude is a good example, combining network and host activity with both signature and anomaly detection.
So, given all these types and approaches, how do they actually detect an intrusion? Are they all looking for the same telltale signs?
Not really, no. Their detection methods are quite distinct. First, you have signature-based detection. This is very much like an antivirus program. It monitors for specific patterns or signatures that are characteristic of known malicious threats, comparing them against a huge database.
Okay, like a fingerprint.
Yes, exactly. It's highly effective for known attacks and usually generates minimal false positives. The big limitation, however, is that it's essentially blind to zero-day vulnerabilities, completely new, unknown malware or attack methods it hasn't seen before.
Right, the stuff it doesn't have a signature for yet.
Precisely. That's where anomaly-based detection comes in. This was specifically designed to try and catch those unknown attacks. It uses machine learning, typically, to build a trustworthy activity model of what normal system behavior looks like over time. Anything that significantly deviates from this established baseline gets flagged as a potential threat.
That sounds powerful, but tricky.
It is. While it excels at detecting novel threats, the challenge lies in balancing false positives flagging rare but perfectly healthy behavior with false negatives, which is missing actual threats because they look close enough to normal. Fine-tuning is key. And then the most robust approach is often hybrid detection. It leverages both signature-based and anomaly-based methods. This combination significantly lowers the overall error rate and dramatically increases your detection capabilities.
We've seen how an IDS works, the components, the types. But for organizations trying to navigate this complex threat landscape, what's the tangible return? Why should they invest in an IDS system?
Well, the benefits are pretty substantial. An IDS helps organizations not just identify security incidents as they happen, but also to analyze the sheer quantity and types of attacks they're constantly facing. You get visibility. This insight can even pinpoint, say, bugs or misconfigurations within their network devices that might be vulnerabilities.
Ah, okay. Not just external threats.
Right. And crucially, they're often vital for achieving and maintaining regulatory compliance standards like PCI DSS for payments or IPS for healthcare. And overall, they just significantly improve an organization's ability to respond effectively to security events.
And beyond just the basic alerting, what are some of the more advanced capabilities of an IDS that might actually surprise people?
A well-implemented IDS can extend its monitoring deeper, looking into the operations of network devices like routers, firewalls, key management servers, providing deeper insight to detect and maybe even recover from attacks on the infrastructure itself. They're also excellent at organizing and making sense of complex, noisy logs, like operating system audit trails, which can really simplify security management. Some advanced IDS solutions even come with extensive attack signature databases, can recognize when critical data files have been altered, generate really specific alarms for breaches, and even, in some more sophisticated setups, react to intruders.
React? How so?
By maybe automatically blocking the source IP address of the attacker, or isolating a server that seems compromised, kind of blurring the lines with prevention systems, but typically initiated by the detection event.
Wow, okay. The ability to block intruders sounds like a significant leap beyond just alerting. But look, no system is perfect, right? What are the main roadblocks or pitfalls when relying on an IDS?
You're absolutely right. The key challenges often boil down to a few things. False positives are a big one.
Alert fatigue.
Exactly. Alerts generated when there's no actual problem, which can just desensitize security teams over time. They start ignoring the alerts. Then you have false negatives, which is arguably the more insidious problem, where a real threat is missed, mistaken for legitimate traffic. That's the one that keeps security folks up at night.
Yeah, definitely.
And related to those are underlying issues like just low detection rates in certain scenarios, or dealing with unbalanced data sets when you're training those anomaly detectors. The sheer response time, how quickly an alert is generated and acted upon, is also critical. A slow response negates the value of detection. But perhaps the biggest, most persistent challenge is staffing.
The human element.
Always. Knowledgeable, trained system analysts are incredibly scarce. It makes it difficult for organizations to find the experts needed to properly tailor, manage, and crucially, respond to the complex output from these systems effectively. It highlights a critical tension. The more vigilant a system, the more noise it can generate. The ultimate bottleneck often isn't the technology itself, but the human intelligence required to filter the real threats from the false alarms and take decisive action. And this really raises an important question, doesn't it? If an IDS is primarily about detection and alerting, how does it integrate into a broader cybersecurity strategy that includes active prevention? the kind of role a firewall plays.
All right, let's clearly define that relationship then. IDS versus firewall, are they rivals or are they playing entirely different complementary positions on the same defensive team?
Oh, definitely teammates.
Yeah.
But with distinct and crucial roles. An IDS, as we've discussed, is primarily a detection system. Its main job is to monitor for intrusions and then, send an alarm. It watches network packets in motion, and it's capable of generating alerts whether an attack originates from inside or outside the network. But critically, it does not actively protect the endpoint or network in terms of preventing the threat from happening. It's an observer.
Okay, passive observer.
Right. Firewalls, on the other hand, are proactive protective systems. They can be hardware, software, or often both these days. Their fundamental purpose is to monitor and actively filter incoming and outgoing network traffic based on an organization's established security policies. Rules.
So they do block things.
Yes, exactly. Firewalls actively look for threats to prevent them from ever becoming incidents. They're capable of filtering and blocking traffic, allowing non-threatening data in, while rigorously keeping dangerous traffic out and restricting access between different parts of a network based on those pre-configured rules.
So, okay, if a firewall is like the strict bouncer at the club door deciding who gets in or out based on the list, then an IDS is more like the comprehensive security camera system inside, constantly watching for suspicious behavior once someone's already cleared the entrance.
That's a perfect analogy, yeah. Firewalls are your crucial first line of defense, typically guarding the perimeter between your internal network and the outside world, like the internet. And there are various types, from traditional packet filtering ones, stateful firewalls, all the way up to advanced next-generation firewalls, NGFWs, which offer much more sophisticated capabilities.
Like what?
Things like deep packet inspection, understanding the applications generating the traffic, not just ports and protocols, integrated threat prevention features, maybe even some basic IPS capabilities built in.
Gotcha. But even firewalls have limits, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. Even NGFWs have limitations. They might not stop users from, say, clicking a phishing link and accessing a malicious website if the basic rules allow web access. Nor can they typically protect against virus-infected files once they've somehow slipped past the perimeter of fences. They can't prevent password misuse if someone has legitimate credentials, or secure a system that's already compromised from within. And critically, they're useless if their security rules are misconfigured, a very common problem.
Human error again.
Yep, or against non-technical risks like social engineering. It's remarkable how these systems, despite their differences, really complement each other. It powerfully illustrates the need for multiple layers of defense rather than relying on a single silver bullet solution.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if an IDS is the alarm and a firewall is the gatekeeper, where does the intrusion prevention system, or IPS, fit into this picture? Is this where we finally move from just detection to actually stopping threats in their tracks?
Precisely. An IPS takes the capabilities of an IDS, the monitoring, the detection, and adds that crucial element of active intervention. It's also a network monitoring system, can be hardware or software that, like an IDS, continuously monitors for malicious activities, known threats, and policy breaches. But the fundamental difference is that an IPS takes action to prevent these activities when they occur.
Takes action how?
Well, this includes reporting the event, like an IDS, but also actively blocking the malicious traffic, dropping the connection, maybe even resetting it or quarantining the source. Unlike an IDS, which usually sits off to the side monitoring a copy of the traffic, an IPS is typically deployed in line. All the network traffic must pass through it.
Ah, so it's directly in the path.
Exactly. This allows it to actively intercede. Its major functions are to identify malicious activity, collect info, report it, and then attempt to block or stop it automatically. And like I mentioned, you'll often find IPS capabilities increasingly integrated into those next-generation firewalls or broader unified threat management UTM solutions. The lines are definitely blurring for a more comprehensive defense package.
That distinction, being inline and acting automatically, is crucial. So how does an IPS actually go about preventing an attack? What are its techniques for identifying and then, mitigating these threats?
Yeah, so an IPS leverages many of the same smart detection methods we talked about with IDS, but critically, it pairs them with that active response layer. So you still have signature-based detection, using well-known threat signatures to automatically block previously identified attacks. That's its first line of active defense.
Stops the known bad stuff.
Right. Then there's anomaly-based detection, monitoring for abnormal behavior against a baseline. This offers a more robust way to potentially catch and block novel threats, although, like with IDS, it's still prone to some false positives if not tuned carefully. You also have policy-based detection. The IPS blocks any activity that explicitly violates specific security policies that the organization has defined, like no peer-to-peer traffic allowed on this segment. Boom, blocked.
Simple rule enforcement.
Exactly. And then there's stateful protocol analysis detection. This is a more advanced method that recognizes deviations in how network protocols should behave. It compares observed events to establish normal profiles for those protocols, allowing it to spot and block subtle attacks that might exploit protocol weaknesses.
And just like IDS, I assume there are different types of IPS tailored for specific deployment scenarios, too.
That's right. The main types mirror the IDS categories, but with prevention built in. You have Network Intrusion Prevention System, and IPS, installed at strategic points to monitor all network traffic passing through and proactively scan for and block threats before they reach their intended target further inside the network. Then Host Intrusion Prevention System, HIPS, installed on an individual endpoint, like a server or workstation. It monitors traffic and activity just for that machine, acting as a crucial last line of defense. Often works best combined with the IPS.
Layering again.
Yep. There's also Network Behavior Analysis, NBA systems. These focus more on analyzing overall network traffic patterns to detect and potentially mitigate unusual flows, like the massive traffic surges characteristic of a distributed denial of service, DDoS attack. And finally, a Wireless Intrusion Prevention System, WIPS, is specifically designed to scan Wi-Fi networks for things like unauthorized access points or rogue clients, and can actively remove or block those unauthorized devices or connections.
Right, securing the airwaves. So, what are the big advantages for an organization? Why put an active blocking system like an IPS in your security arsenal?
The benefits are pretty substantial. Primarily, it means a significant reduction in business risks through that proactive threat neutralization, stopping attacks before they cause damage. And IPS adds a really powerful layer of security that complements other solutions like firewalls and IDS. It can also increase overall efficiency by inspecting and filtering out malicious traffic before it even reaches and burdens other security devices or servers, reducing their workload.
Take some load off.
Exactly. And the automation aspect leads to potential time savings for IT and security teams. They can focus on more strategic activities instead of constantly reacting to every single alert that comes through. And IPS also helps fulfill many regulatory compliance requirements that mandate active prevention measures. It offers customization through tailored security policies, gives you better visibility into the actual attacks you're facing and blocking, and ultimately, it can require fewer human resources for day-to-day vulnerability management and patching, because it can often block known exploits automatically, buying you time.
Okay, let's try and bring this all together now. We've talked IDS, firewalls, IPS. What do IDS and IPS specifically have in common? And what's the fundamental distinction that truly sets them apart in a practical sense for someone choosing a solution?
Okay, yeah. They definitely share some crucial similarities. Monitoring is key to both. They continuously observe networks, traffic, and activity across devices and servers. That's the foundation. Alerting. Both will alert you, or your CM, to the discovery of a potential threat, providing that critical intelligence. Learning. Depending on their detection method, especially anomaly-based ones, both can learn to spot suspicious behaviors and ideally minimize false positives over time through tuning. And logging. Both maintain detailed records of monitored events and any actions taken, which is vital for audits, forensics, and review.
Okay, common ground there, but the differences.
The differences are absolutely critical and define their core function. The main one is response. And IDS, remember, only warns of suspicious activity. Human administrators must then analyze the alert and decide what action, if any, to take. And IPS, however, is designed to take action automatically to contain, block, or prevent the threat in real time based on its configuration.
Automatic versus manual response.
Exactly. Which leads to the difference in protection level. An IPS inherently offers more direct and immediate protection because of its automatic action. It significantly reduces the window of opportunity for an attacker to compromise an organization. An IDS solely detects and reports, relying on a subsequent action. But, and this is a big but, this leads to the difference in impact of false positives. That automation comes with a significant trade-off.
How so?
Well, because IPS systems act automatically and are in line, they can generate much more impactful false positives. Imagine an IPS mistakenly identifying critical, legitimate business traffic as malicious.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it might then shut down that network segment, block access to a vital application server, or stop communication between essential devices. It can cause real unwanted operational disruption, even if the alert itself was ultimately an error. So the stakes are higher with IPS automation.
That's a really important point. So, if an organization is looking to build out its defenses, what should they keep top of mind when choosing or acquiring an IDS or an IPS or maybe a combined solution?
Right. When selecting any of these, it's absolutely vital to deeply consider the specific deployment scenario and your unique environment. What assets are you protecting? What are your biggest risks? You really have to weigh the solution's overall effectiveness, its detection rates, its prevention capabilities against those inherent trade-offs we just talked about, system availability, usability, and the precise level of protection you actually need versus what you can tolerate in terms of potential disruption. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all decision.
Needs careful consideration.
Very careful. And it's also absolutely crucial to involve all the critical stakeholders in the selection and setup process. This isn't just an IT decision. You need input from information security officers, sure, but also employees who manage sensitive data, network administrators, database admins, system admins. Their input ensures the system is tailored to your specific needs, your compliance requirements, and your operational risks.
Get everyone on board.
Definitely. And remember, at the end of the day, both IDS and IPS fundamentally rely on the quality of the data collected by their sensors or agents. That data is then analyzed to trigger alerts or actions. So the underlying data collection mechanism itself, whether it's deep host-specific data like disk usage from a HID ships or network packet monitoring from an NIDS and FTS, directly impacts the system's performance and the kinds of insight or protection you can actually achieve. Garbage in, garbage out still applies.
What a deep dive that was into the complex yet absolutely fascinating world of IDS, IPS, and firewalls. It's crystal clear that in cybersecurity today, prevention and detection are truly two sides of the same essential and constantly evolving coin.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's so clear that cybersecurity isn't just about building these static walls around our data anymore, if it ever was. It's really about cultivating a smart, vigilant, and adaptive defense posture. One that can not only identify threats, but also react to them intelligently, hopefully in real time. The ongoing challenge, I think, for all of us in this digital age is striking that really delicate balance. How do we maximize robust automated protection, which we desperately need, while also intelligently minimizing the potential for unnecessary disruption from those very same automated systems? It's a tightrope walk. So what stands out to you as the most critical aspect of these systems for securing our increasingly digital world?
That's a huge question and definitely a lot to think about. It truly shows just how dynamic and challenging the world of cybersecurity continues to be. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Until next time, stay curious and stay secure.